Hey there, new types. I hope you've been winning your locals, NTCs, or store champs, and at the very least, having a lot of fun with the Gundam trading card game. Today, I've got a bit of a brew, using the Victory Gundam League Militaire package and pairing it with the late game neozeong. And as a bonus, no Amuro or Grandpa Gundam here. The synergy is there, and honestly, it's a lot of fun to play, so I hope you enjoy this week's video. I've got my green-white wing video likely coming out next week, and that'll be one of my first real deck techs. If you're interested in that, keep an eye on the channel and maybe give me a subscribe and a like on this video. If not, I don't mind. I'm just happy you're clicking on these at all. Shout out to my local game store and community of players who allow me to record these videos and post them up on YouTube for you guys to see. I'd also like to give a shout out to the content creators I've got the privilege of knowing and interacting with in the creator space. And if you're not satisfied with my content, maybe consider checking them out instead. They all do fantastic work and bring their own unique content to the Gundam TCG community, so check them out if you can. They will be linked in the description below. The deck breakdown is at the end of the video after the gameplay, but if you don't want to sit through all of this, click the timestamp in the description below. Now, it's time to see if the League Militaire can seize victory for neozeon. Mission start. Alright, so we're getting started over here. My opponent rolls an 8. And I roll a 5. My opponent takes a little bit of thought here, decides eventually to go first, which does kind of tell me that they're probably not actually playing aggro, but some form of mid-range, and they're trying to feel me out. So my opponent does decide to mulligan, and I get 2 kshatriya level 4s, a marida, a victory level 3, and a neozeong. It does give me pause to consider if I want to mulligan or not, but because I'm not sure what they're playing and I had a marida plus 2 level 4 kshatriyas, I actually opt to just keep myself the hand. Now, the main reasoning for this is because marida is a pretty good anti-aggro option, and against mid-range, which I'm actually suspecting they're on, I am feeling better having that than some sort of slightly more aggressive start, because against mid-range, honestly, what I am trying to do is get to the late game and completely seize control. All right, so my opponent is going to start us off. Resource down, draws a card, and passes the turn. I do exactly the same, drawing my full frontal, so I have my neozeong and my full frontal in hand. Opponent passes again, and now I am able to deploy the Victory Gundam that I have in hand, along with the second one likely next turn. Opponent is on level 3, and he plays a Lafrith, which does kind of confirm my suspicions of him being on a mid-range build. I'm thinking Destiny, but I don't know for sure. So I just start building my board up. Laying down the Victory Gundam here, so I can more or less ensure that I get a token should one of these guys die. Just in case, depending on what he's playing. Pass the turn. Opponent gets to his level 4. Opponent plays a Sword Strike and passes the turn. No Kira in hand. I drew another Victory. Not super happy with it, but it is kind of fine. He does block when I take a swing at his EX base, which opens me up to play the kshatriya here. And I do decide to go a little aggressive. I break his EX base and play the kshatriya and link it to my marida in hand. just to apply a bit of pressure and force him to commit to the board a little bit. I take my swing at his shields, and I ping his Lefrith down. He reveals Providence, so now I know he's on red-white seed, and that doesn't change my game plan too much. I am kind of just playing a slow and steady game and trying to get to my end game to hold him off. Or rather, hold him off until I get to my end game. So he plays the Vesalius here, pumps up his sword strike with it, and crashes into my kshatriya. Honestly, I'm not too unhappy about that, but he does deploy a perfect strike and sends my token away. Not the worst thing. I mean, it's just a token, but it is value for him. So I deploy another Victory Gundam, my third. And here I kind of debate if I want to put Uso on my Victory Gundam and threaten his base. It'd also give me a token, but I eventually decide to pass. He knows I'm on red as well, so the 3 resources up does give him some, pause to think before he does something. Lays down a Lefrith and an Ale Strike, taps himself out, and he does pass the turn here. I am now at my level 7, so I am building up towards that neozeon. I just play the Zelote here and pass my turn. Or actually, no, maybe no. I do debate again if I should play Uso and take a swing, but again, once again, I do ultimately decide hold back. Now, this is simply because I'm 2 turns away from neozeong, which means Uso on those victories, if I survive, is 3 damage, right? So not something to scoff at, not something to throw away too willy-nilly when I'm not really advancing my game state, especially into a board of blockers that I'm looking at right now. Opponent plays down a Providence and passes the turn. It doesn't look like he has pilots, so we're okay right now. Not too scared. And we are now at our level 8 here. So if I can survive one more turn, I can get this board under a lot of control. And being that, as it is, I don't actually play a single card here, and I just pass the turn. All right, my opponent plays another Providence, and he's setting himself up for a pretty big turn next turn, it looks like. So I am on my level 9, and this is where we just go crazy. We play the neozeong, we put full frontal on it, we deal 3 to one of his Providence Gundams. And then we free deploy one of our kshatriyas to finish it off. Now, this part is where it gets a little funky. I do make a swing with my Victory Gundam here. And he's debating on if he wants to block it or not. He's sort of betting on my hand not being super good, which in fairness, it really isn't that great right now. So he does try to make a block with the Lefrith. It does allow me to deploy another parts token, which triggers my neozeong, and it hits his other providence, and I take a swing with my other victory, make the trade with the Lefrith, and put another parts down to shoot the providence. Now, there's an argument for my opponent not having blocked that, but my understanding was he was trying to bait me into swinging with the neozeong. Not too sure what he had it in his hand, but I imagine that was like his big hope. Now, being where I am in the game, I did not want to really risk my neozeong until later. There's really no point. I can just kind of slowly build up things as I want, including playing Uso onto any of these parts, tokens, or the Zelote. Plays an Overflowing Affection, discards an Improved Technique, plays down an Exia, and blasts my Zelote. Now, I imagine this was what he wanted to happen if I swung my neozeong out as basically bait for him to probably swing 2 units into it, uh, possibly with a pilot. Instead, he goes Aegis with Atherin, pings my neozeong with the effect, and she kills my kshatriya. And for some reason, I thought it had breach, and it doesn't. It has the, ping effect. Pretty cool ping effect. Very relevant for this. He eventually passes the turn, and I'm back to my level 9 again. And now I can go pretty ham here. So I drop a Zelote down. I blow up his Aegis. I play down a Rheinforce Jr. Play out a token from it. And I think, yeah, I shoot the Ale Strike here. I get a Show of Resolve out of my shields from that. So I draw 2. I play down the kshatriya from my hand, finish off the Ale Strike, and just decide to pass the turn with a fairly, not aggressive opening hand or aggressive board, because I'm just trying to keep my neozeong alive. I am deciding if I want to play the Uso here, but eventually I just pass again. There really isn't much of a reason to play it other than being impatient. I can just kind of sit here, wait for my opponent to make some commitments, and go off on him again if I have to. Plays another Exia, blows up my Zelote again. We're not loving that, but we have to take it, I am liking my hand for the most part. 2 Usos, a Zelote, and a Show of Resolve. I do have my opponent in a pretty tough spot, though. An active neozeong that he just can't deal with is not where he wants to be, and I'm being very conservative with it. Well, I'm not swinging at his face. I'm just slowly taking over the board as I can. So he goes in with his Sword Strike and Akira to break my base, bouncing one of my tokens, takes another shield, gives me a full frontal. He passes the turn to me, and I get going with what I have in hand here. First off, starting with this Show of Resolve. I get a Victory and a Kshatriya. I make a swing with one of my tokens at his Exia, and then I make another swing with a token at his Sword Strike. And he does let that through because I think he's valuing his Perfect Strike more. So I finish it off with my Kshatriya, pinging for 3 on deploy, and then playing Uso onto it, which unfortunately doesn't give me token, but I do ping his Exia and I ping his Perfect Strike, and then I finish the Perfect Strike off with the Zelote. And this is where I do make the swing at his base. And I take another swing at his shields to put him to 3, and I pass my turn. I do have a pretty aggressive following turn, so we're going to see where that goes. He plays a mining asteroid, 6 HP base. Plays an Ale Strike. I draw into another Kshatriya here. So I play Victory, shoot his Ale for 3, play Uso, deploy another part, and finish off the Ale Strike. I take a swing with my neozeong, break his base, take a swing at his shield with my Kshatriya. I turn over a close combat there. He opts to hit my Kshatriya, which I think probably should have been my Victory. But he hits I swing with Victory at his last shield. He gets an Atherin. And then I take a swing with my Kshatriya, and he shows 2 close combats in hand and blows it up. Does buy him another turn. But he plays down the Yakindue and scoops up the game. All right, so hopefully that gameplay gave you a good example of what I was going for with this build. Granted, it didn't show you the V-Dash or the Banshee in action, but those cards weren't really in this deck for this particular matchup. They're more for the aggressive mid-range aggro, whereas the red-white Providence build that I fought here was more of a, red-white control in the end. So I got to see the cards I wanted to see, and V-Dash would have been useful. Same with Banshee, but I think the cards that I did see were a better example of what the deck can kind of do without them. You are seeing a pretty even split of League Militaire and Neozeon, and I think you should already know by now what the League Militaire is bringing to the table, or as we're going to call it, the Victory engine, right? It does require having your Victory Gundam with an Uso out more or less most of the time, because you don't really want to leave a Victory up with the chance for it to get taken off the board before you can get a swing. You want to be able to set up your board, drop Victory, and put Uso on it so you can swing immediately, get a card, and also get the token. That's kind of where your card advantage kind of starts to stack up. The more times you get to use Victory for card draw is always good, but your leg tokens do kind of count as your ping damage in this deck, where they will add up and they're very much sacrificial. You don't care about them. They get swung into things, and they're more or less there to fuel your V-Dash or to add incremental damage to units so you can kind of clear the way for your bigger stuff, or just kind of make the most of your ping with your other option deck. They are more difficult to use because you do have to present yourself with the opportunities to be able to swing into things with them, and they're also very fragile, but any ping your opponent wastes on them, any bounce your opponent wastes on them is bounce or ping that's not hitting your solid, better units, right? And because a lot of your stuff here have deploy or generally good effects, if they happen to bounce them, better. And if you're not having them get pinged, even better as well. Kshatriyas, the level 4 and the level 5 are both pretty useful here. And you might hear other people talk about how Kshatriya feels really bad when you don't see a Marida. And that is true, has been true since the red blue control tempo ping decks have been in the past. But because you have Uso and you have full frontal, it does make both those Kshatriyas feel a lot better. The level 4 Kshatriya for me is actually really important in the deck, but it could also potentially be Gira Zulu, because the Gira Zulu is another source of ping. I call it the red Anksha. It costs one more, but it does ping anything on the board. And it can be deployed with a full frontal link or for a full frontal pair, which is sometimes relevant, not always, but it is board advantage, right? It's getting cheating a card out for free, and having a target for that is still important. I don't think you want any less than 4 targets. I have seen neozeong lists that don't have any neozeon units, and I don't really like that. I do think that you want to be able to at least make use of your full frontal when you can at least have the potential. I don't think you want to ever have it in your deck and not have that as a potential ability. I've never been a fan of those type of builds. Now, do you have to? Absolutely not. Um, you can use that level 4 Kshatriya at another spot. You could swap out the level 5 Kshatriya for other things. Other builds that I've seen in a similar vein of this, trying things out, have used Amuro with the Grandpa Gundam instead of Kshatriya and Marida. I personally really like the Kshatriya and Marida, especially in a build like this, especially in a current meta like this, where the ping is relevant. As you saw, the ping with this Kshatriya and Uso when I played it was very relevant. Being able to put Marida on the level 4 Kshatriya early game gave me a lot of card advantage or card trade quality. Being able to take out a base, ping a Lefrith, and then force a trade with another unit later. So, 3 cards for 2 is always good in my books. Card draw in this deck is a little weird. The only true card draw really is the Show of Resolve. The victory with Uso is card advantage in it that you get a token and you get to draw a card, but you really, really need to draw more than 2 cards off of the victory in order to really get actual value out of it. However, within the Gundam trading card game, just drawing 1 card is effectively, replacing one of your investments, and that's more than a lot of other cards do. When a deck plays 2 cards out, a unit and a pilot, they're -2. When you play the Victory Gundam plus Uso, you are generally going to be drawing 1 card, playing a token, and getting your unit and its pair out or link out, which is basically 4 pieces of the puzzle. I call the token maybe 0.5. I call the draw, 1. But depending on how you use it and the way you make it out, that's what this deck is about. That's what the victory engine is about, right? It's the incremental advantage. And when you can draw a second card off of the victory, then you've gotten some actual solid card value off of that card. And that's where the deck starts to snowball, especially when you see the Victory Norn ones, where they're able to take control of the game at a mid range and then follow up with a Victory and a Uso, start swinging and redrawing cards, and they eventually just snowball their way to the end of the game. Very similar here, where you're dropping neozeong, and then you're dropping cards to blow up the board, and then you generally are going to be in a better space with your hand than your opponent, usually 3 to 4 cards compared to your opponent being at 1 to 2. or top decking. And for a control deck, that's kind of where you want to be. And this deck, I kind of think, plays into that kind of control aspect of the game. It doesn't have blockers, but it is more proactive in a lot of things with the close combats, the ping, the neozeong that you're building up to, your kshatriyas, your banshees, right, and your V dashes. The Ryan Force Jr. you could do two of. I did two and two Corsica bases, similar thing. But the note with Corsica base is when you play Corsica base with neozeong out, when you do your second Corsica base, that's one instance of deploy with two tokens. You don't actually get 3 damage and 3 damage per token because they both pop out at the same time. So you only get one instance of damage. At least that's my understanding of it. Maybe I'm wrong. I believe that's a single instance, though, not a double instance. It should just be they both pop out at the same time. So you deploy them at the same time. Whereas with the goof, you deploy the goof and then you deploy a token, which is why you get the double ping. I do think that if you do cut out Marida and the kshatriyas, you do make a lot more room in the deck, right? Taking out Marida for Amuro, taking out a kshatriya set for RX-78 does still leave you with another 6 cards you could put in here. And those 6 cards, Zulu might not be a bad option. The upping your full frontal to 4 might be an option. I think 3 and 3 with the neozeong and full frontal is where you want to be. But 6 cards is pretty flexible. They could be more League Militaire, and that wouldn't necessarily be bad. You could even go up and up your numbers for Show of Resolve. I think 4 Show of Resolves in a deck like this is totally reasonable, especially since a lot of the time you may end up just passing the turn and doing nothing as you're setting up, especially in turn 6 to 7. Sometimes you're not playing it. You did see in my turn 8, my level 8 rather, I didn't play a single thing. I just passed the turn, and that's mostly because I did control the board long enough. And for me, as long as the game keeps going, I'm going to be in control and do better. So a deck like this does allow you to do that, does allow you to play a little bit more control and play slower in the off chance that you're playing, something that is more control oriented. Generally, neozeong is going to be better in the control matchup because you do just go bigger. You are the biggest thing this game can do right now, aside from Wing Zero. And honestly, I think currently neozeong goes bigger than Wing Zero overall, just because of the board control it offers and the fact that if you can keep the gas up, you can generally control the board. And in builds where you have card draw and card advantage, the neozeong really, really shines. Personally, I think the red-white list is really good, but the blue options that you have right now are where you probably want to be with neozeong later down the line. I think the white blocker spot is a stopgap. And eventually you're going to see these decks that go big being able to consistently go big and then also have card draw or ways to refill their hand better than their opponents and better than things in other builds. However, I think I've yapped long enough. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.